Yeah, hi. Here we are back again, ready to cover the next topic, Chapter 9, Questionnaire Design. Right? Let's go forward. Okay. So, what is the questionnaire? The questionnaire is the document. The questionnaire is the core of the market research study. Everything revolves around how good the sampling is, how good the questionnaire is. If your questions are wrong, if your questionnaire is bad, you will not get the right data, right? So it is absolutely one of the pillars of the market research study, right? So um, it is used in quantitative research, right? It is distinct from a discussion guide, and we need to get these terms absolutely right every single time. Okay, a questionnaire is used in quantitative research. In qualitative research, we use a discussion guide. Okay, some textbooks will talk about something called a schedule. They will talk about data collection instrument. Some textbooks will say a questionnaire is different, a schedule is different. Some people will talk about survey instrument. All those are, practically speaking, they're all the same. We can just call it questionnaire. It's a simple one-word description for each of these things. Okay? A questionnaire can be administered face to face. As in, I'm sitting across from you and I'm asking questions, you're answering, and I'm writing down, or I'm typing in the answers. That's possible. Or the question can be administered over the phone. Or the question can be administered over the chat these days. Or all these are administered options, as in there's somebody who's administering the questionnaire to somebody else. Or a questionnaire can be sent to somebody and they can fill it up themselves. And this can be online. It can be a physical mailer, like it can be a bound document, or it can be email document. All these options are possible. Depending on the particular requirement, depending on the profile of the target respondent, we use the appropriate method. Here, we need to remember that internationally, in countries like the US, a lot of online work happens. In India, it has started to happen, but there's a good chunk of market research fieldwork which is still happening face to face in India. And here the trend is from face to face, as in physically face to face, it is moving from face to face over Google Meet or over Zoom or one of those video calls kind of thing. But that is still face to face, right? Okay, so far, let's go forward. So, for the questionnaire to be considered good, there are three criteria. It should cover all the questions that we had in our mind when we started planning the research study. So, it should be comprehensive in terms of coverage. Two, the way we write the questionnaire, the kind of words we use, the kind of scales that we use, the flow chart that we use, the terminology that we use, should all be such that it elicits genuine responses. It should not be the respondent forgets and gives something carelessly or feels some pressure to genuinely give a wrong answer, to deliberately give a wrong answer. Right? Those situations are possible. For example, there are certain topics which are very sensitive. Uh, if you go to somebody and you ask them, can you tell me if you suffer from any contagious skin diseases? People won't talk about it very easily. I'm giving an extreme example, but that's not the kind of thing people talk about very easily. The general rule, the common sense rule, don't ask somebody their income very bluntly, will apply. Don't go to a shopkeeper and ask him how much he sells. They won't give a genuine answer. So the questionnaire should be written in such a fashion that the respondent can answer and is willing to answer. Right? And the third principle is that there should be no fatigue. The respondent shouldn't, after a time, say, "Oh my God, when is this going to get over? I'm just so boring." Yeah, okay, you just put some answer. It should not come to that point. It should stop at the point when the respondent still is answering fairly energetically, fairly enthusiastically. So there are time limits. Right? So three criteria for a questionnaire to be considered a good questionnaire. And what we will see here is certain guiding principles. Now let me stress this again. Marketing research is a part of marketing. There are no rules. there are guiding principles which are applied 95% of the time. But 5% of the time, we have to use our intelligent alertness and say that guiding principle is not relevant in this particular situation and change it accordingly. Right? So let's go forward. So these are the broadly the considerations or the principles that we will talk about when it comes to how do we write a questionnaire. We have to keep these things in mind. So one, what is the method of collecting data? Two, what is the information that we're trying to collect? Three, the flow of the information within the questionnaire. What comes first, what comes later, what comes at the end? How are we going to word the questions? How are we going to capture the responses? How are we going to screen the respondent and classify the respondent? Remember, the person who answers the questionnaire is called the respondent. Once he walks into the market research interview situation, you don't refer to him as a consumer. You refer to him or her as a respondent, and that's important, right? And finally, we need to keep in mind the language in which the interview is going to be done. So seven principles or seven considerations. You can just think of it, you can remember it, you can talk about the 7C model for writing a good questionnaire. You must keep your seven things in mind. So when you finish a questionnaire, you have to ask yourself, have I kept the 7C model? That's one good way to cross-check if you've done a good questionnaire, right? So let's look at each of these. Again, not from a theoretical angle, but with some practical examples and how to write a real-life questionnaire, right?
What is unneeded aided?
Okay, sure. I'm jumping the gun here, right? I'll come to that. Sure, I will come to that. Actually, sorry, go back. We will talk about each of this in some depth. Open-ended, close-ended, all these things. Sorry, yep. Open-ended, close-ended, unneeded, aided, scaling. Right? These are terms that you may not have come across up to now, but yeah, they'll become clear just a few minutes down the line. Okay, method of collecting data. As I said earlier, either the questionnaire can be self-filled up, right, or administered. Administered is one person asks, the other person answers, and the first person writes down. So the first person who is asking the question is called an interviewer. Or sometimes he is called an investigator. But a more appropriate terminology is interviewer. If this was a qualitative research study, then it is not an interviewer, but it is a moderator. But we'll come to that later. For now, let's just understand that the person asking the questions is called the interviewer. The person answering the questions is called respondent. Is it clear? Right? Okay. So, when the interview is administered by the interviewer to the respondent, then you have to give some instructions to the interviewer. For example, we have to say, if the respondent answers yes to question number 4, then you should go to question number 5. But if he says no to question number 4, then you should skip 5 and 6 and go to question number 7, and so on and so forth. So those kind of instructions need to be applied, right? So when we write a questionnaire, there are conventions. Do you understand the word convention? No? Okay, so let us say a person's name is Rohit Sharma, right? How do you address him if you have to address him formally, how do you address him? You don't say Mr. Rohit, you say Mr. Sharma. That's a convention. Let's say you're meeting somebody in the morning. What do you say? You say good morning. If you're meeting somebody in the afternoon, you say good afternoon. If you're meeting somebody in the evening, you say good evening. If you're meeting somebody at 8 o'clock at night, what do you say? You still say good evening. Now, if you're taking leave of a person at 8 o'clock at night, you say good night. If you're taking leave of a person at 5 o'clock in the evening, you don't say good night, you say good day. Right? These are conventions. Now, if you break these conventions, is somebody going to arrest you or scold you? Not really, because it's not a rule, but it's a convention. Right? So, likewise, there are conventions that the market research industry follows when we write a questionnaire, as in by hand, or we type it in a Word document. Right? So, one of the conventions is that if the question is, can you tell me which fact says you buy of so and so product? right? Then this is in sentence case, right? Sentence case, capital C here, and the rest of it is small. So this is a question which is being asked to the respondent, right? This is the instruction to the interviewer. This is given in bold and capitals. So when the entire research industry follows this convention, when an interviewer looks at a questionnaire, irrespective of who the researcher is, he knows that what is in bold is meant for him, what is in sentence cases, he's supposed to read out to the respondent. Right? So this is a convention that we follow. If the interview is administered, you have to think about how to give clear instructions to the person asking the questions. Again, why am I stressing this so much? The interviewer is somebody who is supposed to work with blinkers on. Blinkers, right? In the old days, when you had a horse-drawn chariot, the horse is given blinkers because it is not supposed to get distracted by what is happening to the right or to the left, right? The interviewer similarly is supposed to exactly follow the instructions. The interviewer is not allowed to use his discretion, is not allowed to use his judgment. He has to follow instructions, and therefore the instructions have to be foolproof. They have to be absolutely crystal clear and correct. That's why we have to think through this very, very carefully. Okay? So let's go forward. Now, if the questionnaire is self-filled, then the tone of the question wordings will change a little bit, right? For example, um, the question, we don't say, please tell me which brand you apply, because there's no me there, there's no conversation. We will just say, please indicate which pack size you buy. Because he reads it and he understands for himself or herself, right? And the instruction that we say, ask only to people who use so and so brand, that is not going to read the instruction and understand it. It has to be built into the online survey program. Right now, so to go back to instructions once again, when you write an online survey program and when you have to put a go from here to here to here, and if this go here, if this go here, and then go here and come back here, but here you go here and then eventually you come back here. How carefully you have to do those instructions for the computer program? So for the interviewer, your instructions should be equally careful. You have to treat the interviewer like a computer who's going to work mechanically by just following the flow. That's why it is so important. Right? So after writing a questionnaire, you have to go back and check if the instructions are clear enough to anybody and to everybody. Okay? So, if this principle is clear, after this is just matter of common sense.